right, looks like we're live. Hi, everybody.
Hey
Hello,
y'all.
everybody on the replay. I appreciate you joining us today. And everybody that's live, I'll see you in the comments shortly. We all know LinkedIn Live doesn't post automatically. So if you're commenting right now, I will see it in about 20 seconds. But today I have Miss Christine Waters on here. I know I always talk about insurance and things like that, but Christine does something different in the STEM community. Couple fun facts: we're both Fort Valley Wildcats. So
Fort
if you're a
Valley
Wildcat,
Wildcat.
if you're a Wildcat watching this, throw us a heart or something on there to say, congratulations for everything. And also, we are both April babies. I don't know if you noticed this, Christina.
I did not notice that. Oh my goodness. So you're Aries or Taurus?
I'm an Aries. Yep, I'm April 7th.
April 12th.
Yep. So we're both April babies. So it's funny we kind of cross path, both Fort Valley,
Yeah.
both April babies, and actually STEM is a big part of how I got my education. I think I shared in the post that I used to live in Virginia, and I
Mm-hmm.
got a full scholarship to Fort Valley based on my academics, and it was in math and engineering. So
Awesome.
two of the letters, I had a scholarship in that. I did 3 years in Fort Valley for mathematics, and then 2 years in the University of Nevada, Las Vegas for computer engineering. And somewhere around there, I decided I didn't want to do engineering. I liked the math part more. I
Okay.
just kind of changed my mind, and then I went into accounting, and that's kind of what led me to where I am now.
Okay.
So STEM is huge for me. So if you could kind of share for the audience, kind of with the title below, when you seen the ticker, when did you fall in love with STEM? When was that for you?
So I fell in love with STEM 11th grade. I think that was 1998. My
Okay.
teacher, Mr. Lambert, who I'm actually very close with still, he's one of my mentors. He was an amazing teacher. He was a Air Force veteran, and he started teaching after his career in the Air Force, and he made me fall in love with it. I mean, he just found different ways to teach it, made it fun, and I actually was good at it. So I was like, this is fun, and I can understand the concepts, because at the time I didn't know what I wanted to major in. And for college, I was in 11th grade, so
Yeah.
that was a turning point for me. And ever since then, it's always been chemistry. I've never swayed to any other of the sciences. I do enjoy math.
Okay.
Didn't really see myself as a career with that, because with chemistry you could do a little more. With math, I guess you're not as,
Yeah.
but
No,
so
no, you're right. I took the history of math was one of my courses. The history of math,
yeah,
which is
yeah,
you're creating equations from nothing, which sounds ridiculous, but that was one of my courses.
yeah.
I'm going to throw a shout out for Miss Paulana Thompson. She put CDEP on there. So CDEP was a program that helped me get my degree, and that's the program they
Okay,
do for minority students at Fort Valley. I don't know if you heard it in the master's program.
I have not. Nope.
Okay, so yeah, CDEP's the
How about
program to
this?
help do that. Oh, and
Is
she
that for
Paulana just said, go ahead.
is that for undergrad though?
Yes, for undergrad, but Dr. Crumley was he's like a figure at Fort Valley. So she just said, I worked for Crumley for years. He's like a dad to me. He's awesome.
Oh,
No,
yeah. I mean, honestly, but that's the kind of feeling that I got at Fort Valley. Like, it's like a family. I mean, it is a small town, but
mm,
everybody's just want to help you. Like,
yeah.
for one time, one of my classmates, she had to bring her kids to class, and the
Mm.
professor was like holding her baby while she took her exam, and I was like, oh my goodness, that I don't think that would have happened at one of the different universities. Um, yeah, but I just thought that was amazing. They were always very accommodating and just wanting you to succeed. Because I
Hmm.
had the luxury of going to an HBCU for undergrad. Like you, I got a full scholarship to Georgia State. I mean, Georgia State is not a HBCU, but it is a very diverse school, and I loved it. I met a lot of cool people, a lot of colleagues that I still work with and network with today. So I'm grateful for that. I'm the oldest of 7 kids, so you know,
Man.
getting a scholarship was very important. So I, you
Yeah.
know, where the education was paid for. So
Yeah, my parents
glad that
affectionately
I had
told
the
me, go
yeah,
ahead.
I'm glad I had the resources because I got my master's later in life after having my career for a few years. So I was able to do that myself. But yeah, I'm glad I got that HBCU experience.
Yeah, definitely. My parents affectionately said you better get a scholarship or you're not going. Was kind of my
Right,
upbringing.
right, right. I started saving for my son when I found out I was pregnant, okay? Because I don't even know how much it's going to be by the time he goes to college. But, you know,
Yeah.
Maybe he'll start a business instead of going to college. Who knows?
Yeah, technology's changing. We got some updates there. Miss Chandra Hardy. Hey, Chandra, she's at chemistry with the wink face emoji. Chandra was on LinkedIn
Yeah.
editors today. So
Awesome. Hi,
congrats on that,
Chandra.
Chandra. And then we had Catherine Fazanella, GWU, grad Micklin School of Public Health. I'm not familiar with that school. Are you familiar with that?
No. GWU.
Catherine, you're going to have to help us with the acronym GWU. I'm not sure if that's Georgia Western University, but help me out with that. And
Oh,
then
university. Is that no? Because
that's
university.
University of West Georgia. I'm not familiar with that one, but we'll figure it out. Catherine, help us out with the acronym. We're not sure what you're saying.
Yeah,
That,
that would be the other way, right? UW.
yeah. But and Donovan, good friend of mine, also rocks the bow tie all the time. If you guys ever see him on LinkedIn with the post meridian, that's his claim to fame with tutoring mathematics. So I'm glad he jumped on here. Oh, George
Hey,
Washington University, that's what it was.
George
Okay,
Washington. Okay.
thanks, Catherine.
Hey,
All right,
Catherine.
so let's get into the STEM conversation. So I know you have a little bit of a different take on STEM, as far as career pathing and what STEM means. So kind of talk to me about what your business does with STEM.
Okay, so for my career, I'm a chemist. I work for the Food and Drug Administration. I test, in I guess simple terms, I test food for mold. So,
Okay.
like flour, any kind of wheat, corn products. So that's
Okay.
what I use. The basis for that is HPLC, which is a high performance liquid chromatography. It's a type of
Okay.
um, instrumentation that we use to test the samples to run the analysis. Um, Over my career, I've always got like questions through LinkedIn, Facebook, even, how did I get started? How did I
Mm-hmm.
navigate? How did I get to the point where I am today? So I thought about it over, I would just help people over the years. Like I would help them with their resume, tell them places, where they can find positions. Because people were mainly interested in how they can use their STEM degree with the federal government.
Okay.
Want to work for CDC, EPA, like those big names, and that type of thing. So being that I've worked for 3 different federal agencies throughout my career, I've kind of navigated through. So I felt
Mm-hmm.
I could start helping others do the same, but with a little less hurdles as I had to overcome
Right.
in that. So my business is called My Trish Consulting LLC. Basically, it's a consulting business where we do resumes, cover letters, CVs, and also consultations to help people just kind of figure out what they want to do. So I collect a ton of information from a client, and
Mm-hmm.
then help them, give them some ideas and suggestions based on the experience that I've had. So
Okay.
even though I've only worked under the S of the STEM, I have a lot of different colleagues and friends, associates that I've met over the years who work in the other 3.
Okay.
Even if I don't, know directly, I do have some knowledge of it, and I can probably link you to somebody, like my little professional black book, if you will.
That's cool. So what do you think when somebody's, they're in school, they're studying for some letter of STEM, what do you
Mhm.
think is the biggest challenge they have with kind of figuring out what to do?
I think the biggest challenge is just trying to just take the degree and the coursework and actually tie it into a practical career, or
Okay.
like the translation of the two, if because a lot of people just don't know what they can do other, because for instance, most science majors, just from my experience when I was in undergrad, are either pre-med,
Mm-hmm.
so pre-pharmacy, those type of things. There was only like a handful of us that were just chemistry majors or just biology majors. So I think the lack of just knowing what to do to turn the degree into like a real world realistic career. And then another challenge too is the lack of mentorship. Just people before you kind of reaching back and helping you.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the undergraduate programs that don't require undergraduate research, I think that is a big mishap, because that's how a lot of STEM majors get experience. So when you do graduate, you're applying to an entry level position, but they're saying they still want at least 1 year of experience sometimes. And that's frustrating because you're in school for 4 years, you don't you were in school, so you didn't have the opportunity to get the experience. But doing the undergraduate research, doing internships, even doing a shadow, like sometimes they aren't going to be paid, but they'll pay off in the end because of the skills that you learn and the experience that you get that can translate into a professional type of career.
Perfect. And I'm listening to you. I was going to jump to the comments here and there, so sorry about that.
Oh,
We
no
had
problem.
Catherine clarified, yeah, George Washington University School of Public Health. So thanks, Catherine. I think that STEM doesn't get enough focus. I mean, I think in the elementary level, STEM gets a lot of focus. They talk about it all the time. But far as overall, I feel like there's a heightened sense of, be a celebrity, be an athlete, things like that. So, you being both of being people of color,
Right.
obviously I went through HBC, so I saw plenty of STEM around me because everybody there was a person of color. But when you look
Right.
at the places you work, like what's the diversity like in the places you're working in?
So my first job out of school was actually in quality control. And I want to say something about that. For you science majors out there, that is like a really good first type of job to get out of college. They don't require a lot of experience. They require a degree or the experience. So if you're looking to get into like a laboratory setting type job, look into quality control, quality assurance. For like a manufacturing facility, a foods facility, anything. I mean, car manufacturing, anything that has quality assurance, that is a science-based type of profession, but they don't require a lot of experience right out of the gate. So that's a position that, and you can gain a lot of skills. So you can work there for a few years and then move to the next level. So that's what I did. And that really helped me to propel to the next level. So in that position, there was not a lot of diversity in terms of men and women. So that was a predominantly man type of field, manufacturing and distribution. So being there, being young, that was kind of a struggle for me. And then once I left there, I went to the CDC. There was a huge lack of diversity there, predominantly white. There were a handful of people of color, and I mean like everyone. So that includes Asian, Black, Hispanic. But now in my position at FDA, it is extremely diverse. Actually, I would say white people are the minority at the that I work now. So I thought that was really interesting. And even when we get visitors from other FDA labs around the country, they even comment on how diverse our lab is, which is kind of sad because the fact that they point it out is like, the other labs are not diverse. So that's kind of, I don't know, that, some of us are like, oh, wow, they're always saying it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Paul, on
Definitely
the
diversity. So when I got to CDC, I mean, I was like, whenever there was a position open, and my supervisor, he really valued my opinion and my work ethic. So he would always say, hey, anybody looking for a position? So I was like, get my friends in there, man. Like, or not even
right.
people that I knew from Georgia State. So I would reach back out to my professors at Georgia State, see if anyone was looking for something, or if they had like a student in mind that did research, that they did research with. So that was, even before starting the business, that has been a passion of mine to help more minorities get into the field of STEM.
Well, then it's important you're reaching back. I mean, because most usually in the minority community, we don't do that all the time. So it's good that you took the effort to do that. And Paulana even said, technology is so male dominated. She said, I've also worked at the CDC, totally understand. So it's
Yes.
not just you. I guess everybody feels the same way about the CDC. And not,
Yes.
not to say it's a bad thing, but do you think it's coming more from the education level, like people aren't studying it, or just from hiring practices?
I think it's a little bit of both, to be honest,
Okay.
because I mean, I know a lot of Black scientists. So, but I mean, I know I'm just one person, but I think it's a little bit of both. I think it is a lot of people not majoring in it. And then there is that factor of just not getting the opportunity because they were applying. And I mean, even with my situation, and I know that the culture is kind of about who you know as opposed to what you know. And
Yeah.
actually got my foot in the door by somebody that I knew. I didn't know them personally, but I knew somebody that knew them. And because that I do network and I talk to people, I was at a birthday party actually for a friend of mine's mom. and one of her friends there worked at the CDC. And I was actually working in the quality position at that time, and I wanted to work there so badly. That was like my dream job ever since I came to Atlanta and I came to school.
Mm-hmm.
And she's like, "Oh, give me your card, give me your email. If anything comes across my desk, I'll send it to you." And so I
Mm-hmm.
November 2009. By January 2010, she emailed me a position, and it was the direct link to the hiring manager. And
Mm-hmm.
to my resume, she vouched for me, even though she didn't really know me, you know what I mean? But just looking at my resume. And I had
Mm-hmm.
an interview by March of 2010, and then I started in May of 2010.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but
Like, so,
I had been applying for about 4 years prior to that. So,
mm-hmm.
and that's another thing I tell a lot of STEM professionals, don't lose sight of because I know sometimes the interviewing and the applying, the rejection, it can really get to you, but you just have to hold on, of who you are and what you offer. And the right opportunity is going to come eventually.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to come in the right time too.
Well, it's good. You bring an interesting point with that. You was networking kind of where you stood with the people you know and all that. How often do you see networking happening with STEM professionals, whether it's a networking group or on LinkedIn? Like, do you see that often from your seat?
I do. I mean, you network with me. You kind of emailed me through LinkedIn. I try to network with people. I get invitations all the time to speak at conferences, different things like that. Sometimes I have to decline depending on what type of conference it is. It could be a conflict of interest or what I do for FD.
Mm-hmm.
And just off of LinkedIn, I know within FDA they had, or within the federal government, a young woman, a young Black girl, she started the young, what is it called? YLG, Young Leaders in Government or something like that. So they're
Mm-hmm.
networking with that, and they do more than just, trying to help you advance your career. They do everything from retirement, how to pick insurance, how to set up your TSP. So it's just a good resource for young professionals coming into the government. So that's
Mm-hmm.
networking organization. And then another one is the Women's Chemistry Council. A friend,
Okay.
Christian Asby Dorch, she is one of the leaders of that. So she invited me to join. I haven't been as active as I would like to be just because of time hasn't really allowed. But
Yeah.
the events that have gone to, it's been a lot of networking and a lot of women too. So that's been really cool.
But I mean, do you see like, students or fresh out of college that they're doing these things, that they're going on LinkedIn and seeking out STEM professionals, or they're going to networking events? Like, do you see that happening a lot with the youth?
Not really. No. I actually have an event next Tuesday at Spelman College. So Spelman has this class where they prepare their STEM students for interviews and for like the workforce, for the ones who
Yeah.
go that route. And so they've called on to federal agencies to come and be interviewees or interviewers. They call it the mock trial interviews. So
Mm-hmm.
we did one last semester, and we're going to do one again for the spring semester. And I will say that those students were very engaged and very just aware of what they want to do. I don't know if
Mm-hmm.
they're on LinkedIn, but I'm glad you mentioned that, because when I go on Tuesday, I'm going to mention that to them. Like, hey,
Yeah,
you
I
guys.
mean, because there's so many things of great people I met on LinkedIn, and the thing about it is meeting them offline. Like, you and I had a phone call and talked. It wasn't just messaging, and I feel like there's a skill set missing with the youth. I can only imagine if you're science, technology, engineering, math, you're kind of in an introverted space sometimes,
Right.
where you don't have to work with somebody all the time. I know that's a cliche, but a lot of your work could be alone. So when it
No,
comes
but
to
it's very true though.
yeah. And when it comes to social
Especially,
media, they're posting and posting, but they're never like engaging. Like, let me call you. Let me meet
yeah.
you for coffee. I don't know if that's happening.
No, that's not happening. Unless they get involved in like an organization. Because
Hmm.
like the mentees that I've mentored over the years, they were paired up with me through an organization. So like
Okay.
Georgia State has there's like a career, I forget the proper name of it, but it's some kind of career program that kids go through, and then they reach out to alumni and say, "Hey, do you want to mentor this student, their chemistry major? You can help."
Hmm.
So, and I would say like maybe in that sense, or maybe if they're in like a sorority, there's a lot of networking that way.
Right.
I don't. I agree with you. I don't think it's as much as it should be because it is so like I feel like they have more opportunities and resources than we had. And I mean, I know I'm not that
Yeah.
from millennials, but even when I was like 2006 when I was so there. Facebook was just coming about. You know, LinkedIn was around, but not as popular. So
Hmm.
this is definitely a great tool because they post jobs on here all the time.
Yep. And I think
And
people don't know what they can do with STEM. You mentioned the quality control and all that, and I think I
mhm,
had mentioned to you I had a homeschool thing I went to that was talking about melanin and how melanin can be made into a whole STEM lesson with all four letters. So,
mhm.
what are some like not known careers you think people get into in STEM that you just don't think about in school?
Well, one that I learned from one of my professors, my organic chemistry professor, was cosmetic chemistry, especially
Mm,
days. That is a huge one. Like the beauty industry is like $1 billion industry. So there is a ton of people on Instagram, you know, like they were chemistry majors and everything, and they've turned their degree into a business. So they're making formulas for all of these natural hair companies and brands. So that's a big one. And that's something I kind of want to dabble into like later on because right now I'm very limited to what I can do because I work for FDA. We're a regulatory agency, so we regulate a lot. So I couldn't do, but that's a big one. Cosmetic chemistry. Another untapped one. Instead of going to medical school, you know, becoming like a COO of like a medical practice where you're actually hiring the doctors and the medical staff as opposed to
ah,
yeah, a friend of mine just started that. She started a practice down in Stockbridge. And I didn't, she made me think about it. So, you know, when she told me because what happened was the doctor that used to run her practice, he passed away. And so
mm,
everybody at the practice lost their job because his family didn't want to continue with the practice. And so and she was like a medical assistant or something like that, but she had been doing it I mean, almost 15 years and she loved it. She loved the doctor. She like the office was a family. And so one of the other nurses came to her with the idea and I mean, they got it rolling within about 6 to 7 months. And she does not have a medical degree and she has a medical practice. And she's helping people and it's not prescription driven. It's all about natural cures and you know, wellness from the inside and really about the whole body, not just, you know, like a band-aid on something or giving you a pill to fix it. So
yeah, I love that. I'm all about
yeah.
that. I'm about to tag her in the comments. What's her name? I'm gonna tag her real quick.
Her name is Chantel Bryant, and the name of her practice is Southern Crescent
I
Medical.
see her. Yep, Practice Administrator, Southern Crescent Medical.
Yes.
Tagging her, Chantel. When you watch this, thank
Yes,
Christina. Thank Christina.
she's one of my oldest friends. Like we've been friends since we were like 5 years old. So
Well, guys, check her out in the comments below. You'll see her in the. I just tagged her in there. I'm all about natural medicine and all that.
yes.
Um,
But
so
that's an untapped thing. So
yeah,
she did go to school for medical assisting. I think she got like a degree in biology. So but you know, you never know. Then another one for chemistry, and I'm not sure if you can do a biology, is being a patent attorney. So
mm,
um you need a chemistry undergrad before you go to law school for that. So I don't know anybody personally who's a patent lawyer, but I do know of people that have done that. Like I've seen
okay,
Instagram. So that's another one that's kind of untapped. But the other ones like the laboratorians, the research, you know, medical school, dentist, pharmacy school. And another thing I will say about that, if you because I know some people since they're like toddlers or since they can talk, they'll say, I want to be a doctor. And you know, they stick to that and they, you know, they keep it consistent. But for me, when I was in undergrad with chemistry, initially I wanted to be a pharmacist because I was like, oh, you know, this is something you can have a chemistry degree and do this. It's a pretty rewarding career financially.
mm-hmm.
You know, I did an internship one summer. So it that was not for me. So yeah, so I continued my chemistry degree, and the crazy thing is my same professor, the organic professor, he told me, he was like, you can go to pharmacy school, just finish the degree, just in case you can have it to fall back on. You never know. So I would give that advice to people who want to go to pharmacy, unless you're like really passionate and like pharmacy is for you. Do because typically you do the 2 years, you get your prereqs, and then you apply to the pharmacy school. But you could always finish the 4-year degree and then apply. I mean, it takes a little longer, but just in case, it doesn't pan out, you have something to fall back on. So
Yeah, that's why I have my accounting thing, because I was the engineering wasn't working. I was like, I'm not. This isn't
yeah,
going to work for me.
yeah. So
So when we're talking about these young people, they're going to school, they're getting a degree and everything. What do you think is the most lacking thing on their resume? I know you helped them with their resumes and CVs. So what's the main lacking thing they have on those?
yes. Okay, so I have a lot of things for that. I have a list of. Okay, so the biggest thing is not the biggest thing, but the first thing that you see is a lack of a professional email. Don't, I know you got your, I don't want to call it the ghetto emails, but I know that you have those emails when you're young. Get a new email. Your name, maybe a few numbers, one number, and then Gmail or whatever platform that you want to use. So that's the first thing, because the first thing you see is contact at the top of the resume. And when you see these unprofessional email names, it can kind of.
Chocolate Baby 5, you mean like that?
Yes, I didn't want to say it. Yeah.
I'll say it. I'll be the bad guy.
But yeah, that can throw the recruiter off. So you definitely don't want to do that. The second thing, I'm just going to kind of go down the resume, is like a good summary, a good, and now we call it career summaries instead of saying like objective. You just want to be very clear on what you want to do, because if you don't know what you want to do, the recruiter or the hiring person is not going to know. So that's the second thing. The third thing, education, of course, you list that. If you are applying for a fellowship or I don't know about postdocs, but I know what fellowships, like for undergrads, a lot of times, including the GPA on the resume, because if you don't have a lot of experience, they may use your GPA to determine how much you're going to get paid. Since ORISE is the Oak Ridge Institute of Science and Education. It's orise.orau.gov. Maybe we can put that in the comments. That is a very good website that lists a lot of fellowships and a lot of opportunities. Sometimes the fellowships are only 1 year, but most times you get renewed at least 2 to 3 years, because they don't, and CDC hires a lot through that. So for freshly.
You said orise.com, you said?
No, ORISE, ORISE. .orau.gov.
Okay, putting in the comments. Check it out, people. I'm sorry, keep going.
Yes. So so a lot of times they will use the GPA to, so sometimes, getting good grades can pay off. I know your parents say that, but it definitely can pay off. Okay, and the next thing is a big thing, is just a lack of experience. So ways to get experience as an undergrad STEM major is through undergraduate research, like I mentioned before. I know Georgia State requires that as a graduation requirement. So you basically just link up with a professor and a graduate student, like somebody's working on their PhD, and you would do research with them. I mean, you may not get deep into the nitty gritty, but the skills that you will learn could translate into a career, like a position once you graduate. And then another way to get experience is doing a student assistant, like working as a TA for one of your professors. Once you get past your second year, I think you can do that. It depends. Like if you take a lot of classes, college classes in high school, and you come in advanced, more than like your classmates, your fellow classmates, then you can start a TA position even your sophomore year. It just university that you go to and what their requirements are, but definitely do a teaching assistant in your field. And then also too, just other jobs on campus. I know a lot of people can't balance like working and going to school, but if you do a position on campus, they'll work with your schedule. because I used to work at the rec center. I mean, the hours were like 2.5, 3 hour shifts. So they would be in between classes.
Mm-hmm.
But even though that may not be a STEM field, that still is,
You're working, yeah.
right, team building, your work ethic, how well you work with others. So those are soft skills, but they're extremely important because, in my personal opinion, I think that anybody can learn any job. Now, having
Yeah.
the principles and the science behind it is important, like especially for safety. But a lot of the lab positions are like routine type of things that you could learn. But if you don't know how to work with people,
Yeah, I think that's a lost art. I mean, I think with all this technology and everything, people worry about computers are going to replace us, but people skills you can't teach a robot. So
you
you're
can't teach that
100%
kind of
right.
stuff. So
Yeah.
either you got it or you don't, and if you don't, you got to work on getting it and just putting yourself out there. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, so also doing internships. So in the summer,
Okay.
Overrise is another site. They have summer internships, and a lot of those are paid. You know, taking a few extra courses that you think will help you, because sometimes the coursework can translate to experience as well. And
She's schooling y'all people. You better be taking notes.
okay, so also a part of the experience, if you can, when you're working with the undergraduate professor, I know for me, we did present our work on a poster. So poster presentations at the conferences, like the national, even the regional, the American Chemical Society, they have conferences all throughout the year. They have a Southeast region, a Northeast region. I mean, so you can get in on all of those. You can win awards for your work. That also helps you with your public speaking, how to network with people. You can meet a potential employer at these conferences. So that's a really big one. Even if you're not doing undergraduate research, which you should, every STEM major should do that. Definitely try to go to those conferences. And a lot of times the membership for students is free. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Free is good for students all the time.
Right, right.
Well, Christina, we're going to appreciate your time for this, and then we're going to wrap up here in a second.
One more thing
Oh,
about the resumes. Make sure that you talk to your professors. Like, don't just getting an A in the class is great, but go to their office, talk to them, let them know who you are, because when you need a reference for your when you start applying to jobs, a lot of times your references are going to be your professors. But if they
yeah.
don't know who you are, all they're going to round the reference is, oh, the person got an A in my class.
Yeah, I was guilty of that for my first 3 years. I knew a couple teachers, but I was definitely guilty of that. So I can attest that you need to talk to your teachers.
Yes. And if you're not doing well in a class, go and lecture, because a lot of times, that could be the difference of you making a C or a B. Like, if the teacher sees that you're trying, your professor, they may say, this student got a 79.2, I'll bump them up to an 80.
Yeah.
You just never know. So making yourself visible to your professors and people in your department heads, doing volunteer work with like local middle schools, elementary schools, all that stuff. You can put all that as experience.
Mm-hmm. Cool. You give a lot of food for thought for all the people that are in STEM or wanting to get into STEM.
I'm
Um,
glad.
thank
I
you,
love
folks. When you check
I
the
love sharing this
replay,
stuff.
yeah, and tag anybody you guys know in the replay that needs to figure out information about STEM. I'll put Christina's already copied in the post for this if you need to go to her profile to learn more about fixing your resume for your STEM career or just finding out how to navigate STEM. Thank you. Anything you leave the people with before we get out of here?
I hope that you guys have a good Valentine's Day, and don't forget why you fell in love with STEM in the first place.
I can't end any better than that. All right, thanks, folks. Thanks for being on Business with Benefits.
Thank you. Bye, guys.